All right, we got another treat here, H3 community. This is a new one for me. Mike Deegan, I feel like I've kind of been chasing you down for about a year or so. I know a lot about a lot of colleges throughout the country, and I keep hearing Denison, 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 and how incredible your university is. And then, as I dug in a couple of years ago and realized that you never seem to lose any games, I thought, well, I need to
Yeah.
understand what it is that what it is that you're doing up there in Granville, Ohio. So, how are you doing?
I'm great, Jeff. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a fun ride. I'm in year 13 somehow, some way at Denison. After spending 9 years as an assistant at Marietta College.
Yeah.
Um, so that was fun. My last we won three national championships in total, and then back to back in 2011 and 2012, and then the Denison job opened up. Actually, I applied for this job three times, so
Wow.
if nothing, I'm persistent, and was able to be offered the job and accept it. And my first season was in 2013. We took over a program that was struggling, but I thought the bones were good. I thought the
Yeah.
university obviously was special, and there were other sports teams that were doing well there, and I felt like if we could just put some energy into it and take care of some of those things, then we could blend this beautiful world of like high academics and a high functioning baseball program. And that's really been our shared purpose is can we compete on a national level while we provide an elite student athlete experience? And at this point in my career, Jeff, like with having two great assistant coaches, I feel like that's like my only thing that I really focus on is putting us in a position where our kids can thrive in the classroom and have great outcomes, but also it's not an excuse to not play really great baseball. And I think that's probably who we are at the very root of it all.
I love that. I love that. Folks who know me or have known me for a while know that I use this phrase all the time that how you do anything is how you ought to do everything, right? And
Mhm.
it sounds to me like that probably would resonate with you, right? We don't have to sacrifice on either the academic or the athletic side. And my guess is you hold these guys to a pretty high standard when it comes to decisions off the field as well.
Yeah, I mean it's at Denison, our president, we like so everything. I mean, the success of our program. I mean, it can. There's so many reasons for it, but maybe at the top of that thing is having a president of our university who believes in athletics, and he believes in the power of and. That's what he always says.
Mm,
You can be a great performer and so but I always say like I think you could probably be great at like two things or maybe three. It's
yeah, yeah.
but you have to be selective in what you choose to pursue at a high level. I mean, to get a dentist degree, to be challenged in the classroom, and then also the demands that we place on them in our program is really hard. I think probably what we do now. I mean, I usually encourage people not to come to Denison more than I encourage them to, like in the recruiting process. And I'm sure we'll get to that, but I just say this doesn't make any sense. Like we're going to work so hard at this. There's no guarantees. I don't know why you would choose this path. So our assistant coaches sometimes cringe when I sit with a kid and their family because usually it's like this doesn't make sense. So, we're looking for some unreasonable people who yeah, they don't have the excuses that most people do. And I'm not even saying it's right. It's just who we are, and we're very transparent about that.
I love that. I bet your assistants kind of roll their eyes every time you start talking. They've
Oh,
worked
they
so
hate it.
hard on the recruiting trail, and here goes Coach Deegan again, trying to talk somebody out of coming.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, I just know it's going to take somebody very, 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 very special to do what we're trying to do,
Yeah,
and uh, and I don't want to mislead anybody or pull punches. And I think I joke, yeah, they do, but they also know it's part of our process. We're pretty clear
yeah,
on
yeah,
how our systematic way of recruiting and the way we approach things. So they know I'm not perfect and we're not perfect, but we bet a pretty good percentage by having some guardrails in place to make sure there's nothing. It's whether you're hiring or whatever. Like the best way to develop is to hire great people or to
yeah.
great players. And if we're not very selective on who we take and the families we bring in, then I don't think we're going to be as successful as we've been.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's do this. When we get to the end of this half hour we're going to spend together, I want you to talk a little bit about the team this year and what has you excited. you're
Yeah.
off to another fantastic start after, I mean, I was emailing all the folks who are going to participate tonight and who will listen in as on the recap and just kind of recapping the recent seasons. It's been an incredible run, but I'd love to talk a little bit more about kind of your assistant coaches and what you're looking for, the guardrails that you say that kind of help you assemble the roster that puts you in a position to win, right? Win at this game every time. So maybe start off just telling me a little bit about those two assistants that sound like they've been with you for a while.
Yeah, Ryan Romick, he actually he's our associate head coach. So Ryan, true story, when I was offered this job, accepted in 2000, in the fall of 2012, Ryan had worked camps when I was running camps at Marietta,
Yeah.
and so and he was from that area, from southeastern Ohio, and he we didn't have I didn't have a paid position, but he wanted to give it a shot. So he actually lived with myself, my wife, and at the time we had two kids. So he lived
Hmm.
in a spare bedroom. And I mean, he and I kind of created this thing after kids went to bed. We would kind of think a lot about it. So he and I started this in 2012. Then he took a job with the University of Dayton as their
Yeah.
recruiting coordinator and pitching coach. There was a coaching staff change there. Then he went to Ohio University. Then he got married, and his spouse has a great job here in Columbus and the Columbus area where Granville's located, about 25 miles from Columbus. So, anyways, I said, hey, like my assistant who replaced him had taken a job. He's now with the Guardians, the Cleveland Guardians. But anyways, I said, hey, this job's back open, and there's not a better person for it, and maybe the timing's right. And so, yeah, he's been back here since 2019,
Okay.
and he does everything. I mean, he runs the program. He's day to day. He's one of the most knowledgeable baseball people that you know. I mean, he works
Yeah.
with our pitchers, but he does our defense. He's just terrific. And then our hitting coach is Danny LaPera. He's a full-time assistant as well.
Wow.
Same deal. Came on as a volunteer, and we were able to make it a full-time position a couple years back. Same thing. Super thoughtful. Both are just great human beings. Like that's where it starts. But they're
Yeah.
great baseball men, and they work at it like crazy. And then we have a few volunteers as well. Nick Marsh
Yeah.
and Matt Magno are volunteering for us this year as well. So I feel so fortunate, and that's I joke a little bit, but sometimes I don't know exactly what I do now because those guys do such a good job,
Yeah.
and I'm joking, but there needs to be a little level of humility from my seat to know that they're the experts. Like when it comes to hitting, they're the experts when it comes to pitching,
Yeah.
and my job is mainly to kind of create the environments and make sure we're all rowing in one direction, and then take the obstacles out of their way where they can just coach and really be great for our guys.
I love that. Love that. Did your wife know when she married you that she was gonna be housing coaches along the way in your
Yeah,
house with two small kids? These
yeah,
wives have to know what they're getting into.
yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. I could do a whole show about that, so I won't bore. But no, I mean, any success we have is directly related to, like I said, President Weinberg earlier, but my wife
Yeah.
more than the president. I mean, just allows me to pursue something that once again doesn't make sense to most people.
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
on the road tomorrow for games, and miss my son's track meet. She'll be running kids around. It doesn't make sense, but I like to think that I honor that gift she gives me to pursue something by doing it and being present as much as I possibly can when I'm here.
Love
But
that.
yeah, no, like I said, I get emotional thinking about that because that's at the root of all this. But no, she didn't know that much but she knew that she was signing up for a life of craziness.
That's awesome. You used the phrase guardrails a minute ago. I when I was sending you a couple things that I wanted to talk about tonight, I mentioned that this is something that I ask players to ask coaches all the time. When they're getting to know you and they want to try to figure out could they potentially fit in your program. What are the common characteristics of people that are successful playing at Denison, playing for you? You talk about guardrails. That's kind of another
Yeah.
a way of phrasing that, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it starts with some like baseline requirements. Like obviously they have to be uh, young men and families who care about academics and they care about the education. They have to value that
Yeah.
because this baseball thing may or may not work out. I don't mean that. I've just done this. I've been this 20 years, and you just don't know that there's so many variables there. So The
Yes.
academics have to be there. Then obviously, like I said, I don't minimize this either. Like there has to be a talent level that is on par with being one of the better players in the country. I mean, you mentioned the success we've had, and I appreciate you sharing that. But you got to have really good players to do that. So a skill set
Yeah.
has to be a part of this thing as well.
Yeah.
And then from there, and this is where it does get to like maybe some of the soft skills or whatever. You have to have gotten over yourself
Hmm.
and realize that it's much bigger than you, and that's really hard for 18 to 22 year olds. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be like a little selfish component that's part of a good ball player. I'm not saying that, but I think the families have to understand that. I think they like it is a bumpy ride. It is a
Yeah.
bumpy ride in any competitive athletic program. And so those resilience characteristics and just knowing that it's really not about you. I mean, there's 35 to 40 guys on the roster and you have to like just kind of just do your part. People that like to play the long game, I always say,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a quick, immediate fix, this or immediate impact, I wouldn't come to Denison. I just wouldn't. That doesn't mean, I mean, we started a freshman opening day this year. We have a kid named Eric Colasso who was National Player of the Year last year that has started every game since he walked on campus. But that wouldn't be the reason why. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
It would be like you want to be a part of something much bigger than yourself. And so I think like our assistant coaches are kind of finding like making sure that the higher level boxes are checked,
Yeah.
the talent, that type of thing. And then collectively, we're trying to just figure out are we putting kids and their families in a position for them to be successful?
Yeah.
And that's where I don't think that's data driven or anything like that. That's probably a little bit of feel. And I'm not trying to sound, Jeff, like someone who's saying, oh, I hate parents. It's not that. I think I've gotten a pretty in tuned into listening to like what does the kid and the family want out of this experience, and can we provide that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it's okay. I tell people all the time, if you want to go somewhere and play right away, that's awesome, but don't come here then, right? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
if you want to, like, what people say, like, oh, they guarantee this playing time. Like, then if that's important to you, go there. Like go do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I always say I have, there's X amount of guys on our roster right now. They're going to work hard all summer long. They're going to be like, I'm not guaranteeing anything. Like only thing I can guarantee, I always say, is a roster spot, a pair of shoes, and a hard time. Like that's
Yeah.
it. That's your only guarantees with us. And then we're going to try to play our best players. And I say try
Yeah.
because we're wrong. I mean
Yeah.
we had a kid
Yeah.
this year that we've passed. We were too late to get to, and he deserved it earlier, but it's a messy process, and I think people who want to be a part of that messiness and see the value of what can come of all that.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to understand because you can't see that, like what that is. But
Yeah.
I think having this many years in the business now, and now you have a lot of alumni who have really valued their experience. So that's given me more confidence to probably
Yep.
double down on some of our ways of doing things.
You mentioned something a minute ago. I was I recently interviewed a friend of mine who's a coach down in the South, and he said one of the reasons that the transfer portal has worked for him. You haven't mentioned the transfer portal. We'll talk about it, but he said there are so many kids who have come from being the best players on their high school teams to a college experience that they've dreamed about since the day they were born, or their parents have, right? And that first year in college can be a humbling process for
Oh
someone.
yeah,
And he said a lot of times when I get a kid out of the transfer portal, that humbling process, which isn't always pretty
yeah, yeah,
for both the kids and the families, happens somewhere else. And then I get a kid who's ready to learn and ready to buy into what it is that we do here the second time. We often talk about the flawed process that is the transfer portal, but there maybe are some good things in that come out of that, right? Because kids do have to have some time to mature.
yeah. I'm
Families
I'm
too.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Yeah, actually, I've never really processed it like your friend had mentioned, but I can't see that, right? I think sometimes when you
Yeah.
get knocked down and you get a second chance, you tend to look at things more from a lens of appreciation and not
Yeah.
a lens of entitlement. So, anyways, I could see that for
Yeah.
sure. And I'm, like you mentioned, Jeff, I'm not like anti transfer portal. I think like any new, actually any system, there's positives and negatives. We bring in a transfer to probably a year in some way,
Yeah.
but it has to be the right fit. We've had, because of the COVID years, we've had a lot of people go into the transfer portal. We haven't lost anyone who had eligibility left with us, or not
Okay.
eligibility, that didn't graduate. So
Okay.
we don't have a master's program, or
Yeah.
so after 4 years they've moved on. We've had, two kids at Maryland. We have an
Hmm.
arm right now at Michigan State. Our shortstop's playing at William and Mary. First baseman at Georgetown. Anyways, we got Western Kentucky. I could go on, and that's
Yeah.
been really fun for us to follow them and support them in their endeavors. We still send our guys out in the summer.
You do.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. People are saying, don't do that. Like we'll double down on it. Yeah, one, I don't think there's any. That's a whole nother topic. But there's nothing like playing the game of baseball to get better at the game of baseball.
Yeah, I agree.
To me.
Yeah.
Once again, these are just my opinion, but to me, you got to go play and play against good competition. So we send them out. The duality of what we're doing as far as get a great degree and then competing on a national level makes us a little bit sticky. At some
Yeah.
point, we'll lose people to it. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I think I hope we've built a good enough relationship with our players that it's a conversation and not a I'm going in the portal. It's more, I just want to see what's out there, and then when
Yeah.
things come up, we probably could talk about those things. But like I said, it's going to hurt like crazy when it happens. But
Yeah.
I'll support trying to have people do what's right for them in this process too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's definitely positive and negatives with that thing, and it hasn't impacted us greatly yet.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. A lot of the guys who will listen to this are academically oriented. They're really good to great baseball players, right? I think just about everybody who's going to listen is going to play college baseball, whether they're Denison level or
Sure.
UVA level or someplace below Denison. I don't know. But tell me a little bit about what the kind of the bare minimum is to even be considered academically getting in Denison, right? And numbers sometimes are hard, right? I mean,
Yeah,
is there a test score that they need? Is there a GPA? Is there a certain number of AP classes? That kind of thing.
yeah. I don't think it's like a hard and fast line. I mean,
Yeah,
I believe our average Uh, SAT is now like in the 1270,
yeah,
1280 range.
that sounds
Uh,
about right.
yeah, ACT in that 28 and a half, 29 range.
Yep.
But like it does. It's like there's test optional. Like there's things like there's ways. The biggest thing that we have is our early decision process.
Yeah.
So we tell everyone like that's your route into Denison. I think the acceptance rate now, I don't know, maybe it's like 15% or something. You may,
It's
I should
really
probably know,
good.
I should probably know
Yeah.
these things, but I don't.
It was in the teens. I think I looked at it today, and according to one website, I think it was 19%. But look,
19, so
these websites can be all over the place.
no,
So
that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah,
That's fair. And
yeah,
honestly, that may have been a couple. In fairness to me, I don't know when that number was pulled because it was last year
yeah,
was our best ever. But
yeah,
yes, so it's very selective. But early
yeah,
decision, we have some. There is a little bit more flexibility there as
yeah,
our their class early. Getting in regular decision has become something like where we tell them like I have no say in that. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like that's a bit of a crapshoot because they're trying to shape the class there too. So you
Mm,
never know exactly what admissions is looking for in that round. But
yeah,
early decision, if you're a serious student, like I said, I don't want to go hard and fast. I kind of gave some averages, but
yeah. That's great.
the university will work with people they think could be a good fit.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I would imagine just like with any elite school, academic rigor matters, right?
Sure.
These school admittance people are saying, "Are you taking the toughest classes your school has to offer?"
That's probably it. I think
It's the greatest
they've said
predictor.
yeah, the big like your rigor and then the GPA are really
Yeah,
great predictors of success in college. So
yeah,
that's it. And they're
yeah,
diving into that transcript and that's sometimes like early in my career, I didn't have the Denison background, didn't know this
yeah,
route of recruiting. And, I would see someone with a great GPA and I say, well, what the heck's going on? But then I'd
yeah,
find out that they didn't take the classes that were necessary. They had,
yeah,
you know, so anyways, but yes, the rigor matters. I think preparing for the opportunity to be enrolled at a high academic school starts with that. It's taking the right
yeah,
classes, obviously doing your best and working hard. I apologize to the parents for saying this, but this is part of my recruiting talk. I always tell our players, like, no one's going to ask you your GPA when you're 40. Like, just take tough classes, work really hard, try to be a good person, and things will work out for you. And I say that kind of like as a joke, but we have very, very probably like people that you work with, Jeff, they're
Sure.
high achievers. And I try to just take a little bit of weight off of them, going like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be all right. Because I would ask you like, how'd you do on a test? And they'd say terrible. And I say, what's terrible? And I got a B minus. I'm like, B minus, like that's not so bad, like you're
Right.
doing
Right.
okay. But now like they'll push back on me and say like, if I want to get into med school, I have to have,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
and that's fair, and
It's
that's fair
relative.
too. But I
Sure.
really believe, like, if you take nothing from that rant, Jeff, I really believe though that our guys are going to be all right. Like
Agreed. Agreed.
they're going to be good. Take tough classes, try your hardest, smile a lot, and let's see
Yeah.
what happens. Be a,
I
like
love it.
I say, be a good dude all the time to our guys. Like say, just be a good dude, and things. This world will help you a little bit.
Let's simplify it a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
right.
tell me, one of the things I noticed when I was looking over your roster today is physicality matters,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, a lot of times kids will come to me and they'll say something like, Coach, I weigh 160 pounds and I don't think I'm a D1 body. And I was like, well, in the world of elite D3 baseball, 160 pounds doesn't cut it either. I think you have two guys on your roster at stated weights at 165, and maybe everybody else is 180 and above, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
And those are accurate. Those aren't
Yeah.
inflated. Those are to
Yeah.
the yeah. I would say to the five, but yeah, no. Physicality does matter. It's probably the biggest gap you see with young players, and the college game has gotten so much older, and even
Yeah.
Division three. Like
Yeah.
if you look at like the top 25 Division three programs, majority of them are going to have grad schools, whether it's like the
Yeah.
UAAs or
Yeah.
like the state schools. So it's an older group. I mean, it's like 23, 24 a lot of times,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough to compete at 165, 170 pounds. We divert a lot of our resources to that area, whether
Okay.
from strength conditioning to nutrition and the food we're putting in our bodies. But it has been a shift for us, not just in recruiting, but trying to take serious our part in that, meaning
Yeah.
it used to be like, oh, hungry dogs, play harder, and now like we have food in our dugout all the time. You just what we have dugout food. The guys are just grazing all day long
Yeah.
because we want to keep their weight up. But yeah, yeah, and people listening, that's usually your biggest gap is the physical
Yeah.
piece, and it's hard to because even if you can keep up with for a day or two, like the
Yeah.
breakdown is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just bigger, stronger athletes can take the pounding of training, of playing much more than people who aren't physically ready.
Yeah. It's a big deal. And I've had a kid who finished playing college baseball a few years ago. He went in as the lightest player on the team at 160 pounds at Davidson College. I think he came home from college at 183 3 months later, right? 23 pounds in 3 months.
Yeah,
It wasn't all good weight. Some of that
yeah,
you had to kind of figure out the play weight at eventually. But again, you just get to that college level and you realize, yeah, what I had was probably good enough to compete at a high level at the high school level. But when you're competing against grown men, right? It's just a
yeah.
totally different world.
Yeah,
So
I have a good friend who has a high role in professional baseball, and he said that they assume they start with the assumption that everyone needs to
yeah,
gain weight and strength. Like that's like like assume that, and
yeah,
then worry about body comp and all that. Kind of to your son's point, we'll worry about body composition and whatnot later. But mass does equal gas, and like,
yeah.
there's like a lot of documentation to this now, and so yeah, like that's a good place to start is get strong, get heavier, and then we'll worry about the rest kind of later down the road.
Mike, I don't know what I told you in an email, but this series of calls that I started doing this spring started because typically I'm helping 50 to 80 kids a year, right? And most of them are high achieving kids. Some of them will play at UVA, as I said. Some will go to Ivy League. Some of them I hope will come to Denison. Um, most of these kids play on travel teams where there are very few academic kids, right? And so, to get you guys to come to Charlottesville to watch a team play when there's one kid on the team that could
Yeah,
get into Denison is a big ask, right? That's why I tell kids all the time, if you want to be seen, make sure you get to the college camp. You know you're going to get seen there. We did decide this year to try something different, and we put together a roster of 20 kids, probably all of which are admittable at Denison, right? They're
Sure.
all they're all 3.6 to 4.0 unweighted GPAs with
Yeah.
30 and above ACTs, right? Some of them are 35 ACTs. Where and you may not know this yet, but I would imagine you have a history here. Where do you typically go in the summer to find guys? Do you have certain events that you always go to?
Yeah, our assistants will handle go to like most of the head first, and all those
Yeah.
like what you just described there. That's like the target market, like the
Sure. Yeah.
and so we'll do the head first. There's a few academic one like in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
Play to win. We'll do some of those as well. Just over the years, we host a lot at our park.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I hate this. This sounds tough, but like I could see this coming. Like as my family was getting bigger and kids were growing up, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to keep doing the same recruiting that I did when I was
Yeah.
single. And
Yeah.
so like, my vision at the time, one, I started a newsletter like years ago, and that's kind of how I got on a lot of people's radars.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a way to get my, kind of who we are out there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, like I said, I want to get turf on our field and I just want to host games. And that way it's more like a 9 to 5. So we can just
Yeah.
open the field up at 8 o'clock, watch games till 6, and we all go home.
Yeah.
So we host almost every weekend now, whether there's like the Buckeye Elite Tournament. So teams like that, they're Ohio based, but you're always bringing teams in. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of the hub. But like I said, Coach Romick and Coach LaPere, they'll be out from like I said, from head first to a lot of the other academic national showcases. I work with the Toronto Blue Jays in the summer, so
Okay.
I work in their player development and spend some time down there in Florida and Dominican Republic. So I don't recruit as much as I used to.
Yeah.
A lot of ours is based on kind of this model of of who we are,
Yeah. Yeah.
I really believe that we end up attracting the right people. My last thing, Jeff, is I know you said it quickly. Like I hate it because it feels like a money grab. But the our camps are everything. So like it's almost like we do like the selection process of trying to like identify who could be a good fit for Denison. We try to, there's see them a million ways. Video could be a lot of things, and then getting them to our camp is the best way for us to touch and feel and see if this could be real on both
Yeah.
sides. Like
Yeah.
our players work the camp, like we run it like practice, and I don't know. It's like the best vetting process for both parties. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying we don't take anyone that doesn't come to our camp because there's always exceptions to the rules,
Yeah.
but like that to me is so important because I think we get a
Yeah.
pretty good sense of who they are. So I always tell people, don't come to our camp if we're like one of 10, because I think it's a waste of
Yeah.
your money. But
Sure.
if we're one of three, come on, like just
Yeah.
it, like I said, we do make money for the program on it, but it's not why I'm saying it. Yeah, it's just so important, I think, for you to feel it. So yes, we're gonna try to see video matters. There's so many ways to the touch points, but to see if this is could be like a great fit for us, I think our camp is probably the best way.
I love it. And look, I mean, God's going to take 4 years of instruction from you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they ought to know what you're like when you give instruction. And if you're going to take to bet on a player, you ought to know how the kid takes instruction, right? I mean, there's just no way to do it. I mean, head first, they get out there and work with players a little bit, but there's nothing like being on campus.
that's it. And we take a lot of pride, like I said, our players, like it's the one ask like the we ask a lot of our players, but I try to ask very little from them, like extra, like meaning yeah, like we don't do a ton of things, but the camp is one thing they have to work. And we tell them to engage, and they care a lot about our program too. So they're giving us feedback on, different things. And my brag would be, I think most people come to our camp and they're incredibly impressed. And the hardest
Yeah.
part is saying no to people,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can feel it. But we put so much effort, energy into it, not to show off, but to give the best like experience we possibly can for them and get and fight to make sure that we do like just like everyone else. I mean, we do like the skills part. We play a game. We get all the measurables, but the most important thing is like well, not the most. Like I said, I'm not. You got to have a certain baseline, but
Yeah. Yeah.
is this going to be a good fit? And you nailed it. It's a
Yeah.
good investment for people, not just Denison, but anywhere that you think you could spend 4 years.
I think my son said to me one time that the first question out of the Davidson coach's mouth when a player leaves from camp or a visit is he goes to his players and says, "Will this kid be additive to the culture of our locker room?"
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah,
it matters.
yeah.
All right, last I asked you for 30 minutes and we're right
No,
at
you're
it. So
good. No, thank you.
let me ask you this. I want you to tell me what you're really excited about this year's squad. Like what is what has you getting up excited every day to be with this group of guys?
Oh, Jeff, that's a fun question, and I got it's to me, they make me want to give more. Like I've been doing this for 20 years, and you can kind of coast a little bit if you want. Like you can I don't know. Like we have our process, but
Yeah,
these guys challenge me because they want to get better, and I just I go into this. Every year going like we're going to try to do whatever we can to get the best experience we possibly can for our players. And with this group, I don't question their toughness. I don't question their character. And so I just look forward to being around them every day. It's the highlight of my day. So there's so many times now, like I said, as I've gotten older as a coach, like I'll say, hey, I'm having a instead of like being quiet and like kicking a bucket, I'll just say, guys, I'm having a bad day, and this is the best thing that's going to happen today. So let's go have fun with it. But it's just a great
yeah,
group of guys that
yeah.
that care a lot, and they're good, man. They're good players,
That's
and they're
awesome.
good people. And I love having my kids and my family around them because
Yeah,
they like I want my kids to see like those kinds of people, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I just want them to like, yeah, I want them to be around our players, and that's how highly I think of them. And so that's it. And
That's
obviously
awesome.
like, a chance to pursue something pretty special here at the end of the year. So,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
but it's more the day-to-day stuff that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I had one person just
Yeah.
ask a question in the chat. This is a short one. He said, "How big a roster do you keep?" It appears to me that you're at about 45. I don't know if that's your normal
We're
number
we're
or not.
uh we're at 44, 45 this year. It's the highest.
Okay.
We got it like, and in full transparency, our goal is, can we do this on a national level without having the massive roster size that you see at a lot of Division threes, like the not let me put it this way. The teams in the top 25 year in and year out tend to have bigger rosters, especially in the fall.
Okay.
Um, and that's where, like I always say, like, don't look at the spring rosters, look at the fall rosters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of where you're going to see it. We don't recut recruited athletes. We don't. We will do travel squads at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're incredibly transparent. We're going to play our best players, and some guys like that. They may not get the playing time that they want, or maybe dreamed of. But as long as they're still doing the right things, like we'll obviously they can find a great and add a ton of value to our program. But we're too high right now at the 45. There's several guys on there who are injured, by the way. They're probably out for the
Okay.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we would like to get that thing back down in the 35 to 40 range. What you're going to face to ever ask that question, just in general,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's supply and demand right now. There is so many people who want on college rosters. It is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And
Yeah.
so it is a fight. And the reason our roster's big is, I think, is I have a soft spot. Like I don't
Mm.
and I think why people Denison's sticky and they don't want to leave. And then like also then like where are you going to go sometimes? I don't mean that like
Yeah.
we have great players, but like everywhere's kind of bloated right now. So I would
Yeah.
just try
I
to
agree.
I would really lean into just trying to find a place that you love. But yeah, we're too
Okay.
high. I don't love that number. But it is what it is for
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't say this to everybody, but when I do, I start with this story. So when my oldest son was sophomore in high school, and we started this process with him, that was 2015. Um, Brian O'Connor at UVA
Yeah.
said to me, "Pick a man who's going to help you finish raising your son." And that's how my son ended up at Davidson. There was a guy named Dick Cook there, and I don't know if you ever met Dick Cook,
I,
but
I know Rucker. I know Rucker Taylor really well. Like,
yeah,
and so I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no.
my assistant who works for the Guardians, when he left here, he went to Davidson. So
Oh,
sounds like
right. Who was
maybe
that? Who was that? If you
Kyle
don't mind me asking.
Lindquist.
Oh,
Kyle
yeah,
Lindquist.
yeah. Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
totally
So
know Cal. Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, no, no. I was just going to say my son played for Dick for 1 year and then Rucker for three. And in both cases, I would say they're the types of people that I wanted my son to be around to help me finish raising my son. And I don't know you well, but I like what you said, and I like the results on the field. The results tend to tell a pretty good story, right? If people look at the quality of what somebody is putting out, you can't read everything by a win-loss record, but when other people are saying good things about you and you're doing it, you're winning at a high level at a high academic school, you got a lot going right, and you're the kind of guy I think a lot of these parents will want to send their kids to play for. So appreciate you taking the time today.
Well, that
Away
means a
from your
lot.
own four children, you know?
No, and
Yeah.
I have to jump in because that one
Yeah.
that's a super compliment that I don't take lightly. I would go back just to say though that I mean I have my flaws, just like just like
Sure.
Coach Cook did. I'm not,
Yeah.
but I think what I said about like our players, like I think that environment, our environment is a very healthy environment, and maybe I'm at
Yeah.
the top of that food chain, like when it comes to
Yeah.
like meeting.
That's to me.
But I think that's where I really try to thrive is that, our place is there's a belonging. Like our older guys take care of our younger guys, and I take
Yeah.
care of our older guys and our younger guys. So it's like we really do. And it's like any team that's like ranked where we're ranked. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a cutthroat element to it at times. Like we got to be tough and we got to be, and things are going to be hard sometimes. But I didn't mean to. I know we got over, but that compliment means
Yeah.
a lot to me, and I don't take it lightly. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough. And I hope this is just the start of us getting to know each other. And I think I have a lot of guys each year that are at least guys that need to be considered, that need to consider Denison and maybe considered by Denison. So one of the things is you're going to get a nice roster from me tomorrow. We're going to at least send it to your
Hey,
assistants and let them look at it.
no,
And
yes,
um, yeah, and
we'll do our
and
due
then
diligence. We'll do our
yeah,
due diligence, and
yeah,
it's that's just how that's a great place to start, and we'll
yeah,
start diving
yeah,
in. And we're already familiar with a few guys, obviously, that are a
yeah,
part of your
yeah.
organization. So we're
That sounds great.
yeah, we're not always as aggressive as some people, especially now. Like we take a lot, and I think this is good for many people to hear that.
Yeah,
I made a commitment that we will pay attention to our roster first and foremost at all
yeah,
times.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and a lot of people, and not right or wrong, a lot of people go, they're always looking for the next shiny object, but we have 45, shiny objects that I care deeply about right now that I want to make sure get the best experience possible. And when the time's right, we'll turn our attention to that next phase. But please know
yeah.
that we are paying attention. It's not priority number one for us right now. And I don't mean that sounds bad, but it's
No.
like the 45 guys on our rosters is who's going to get our bandwidth at this time of year.
You need to be great where your feet are. So I
That's
appreciate that
it.
you're doing that.
That's
And
it.
thank you again for this. Thanks for to your wife for
Oh
maybe
yeah.
maybe putting those four kids to bed, or at least starting the process without
Yeah,
you.
that's the
And
problem. Yeah, my job's
yeah.
reading the two youngest girls, and I'll get that at 8:45. So awesome.
All right. You have
I
a great
appreciate
night,
you,
Mike,
Jeff.
and we'll talk soon.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yep.